Hey there, it's great to be with you today. Let's have an honest, unfiltered conversation, just you and me, about a question that so many women ask themselves in silence. It's the one you might not always bring up with your friends, or maybe you do, but still walk away feeling more confused than before. That question is, when should I sleep with him? Now, some people will throw out numbers like their gospel. Wait until the third day, wait 30 days, wait until you're exclusive. But here's the truth. There is no one-size-fits-all answer. There's no universal rule book that tells you the right moment. Why? Because intimacy is not just about timing, it's about intent. It's not about a date on the calendar, it's about where you're standing emotionally and what you're expecting afterward. You see, there's a big difference between doing something because you feel empowered and aligned and doing it because you feel pressured, insecure, or hopeful that it will buy you a deeper connection. So today, I want to give you 5 powerful mindset shifts to help you decide for yourself from a place of clarity and self-worth when the moment is truly right, not based on fear, not based on pressure, and definitely not based on what you think will make him stay. These 5 ideas will help you step into your power, protect your heart, and make a choice that feels right for you, not just in the moment, but the morning after too. Let's dive in. One of the most common and heartbreaking traps women fall into is believing that sex will earn them the love they crave. It's subtle and it doesn't always start with that belief on the surface. In fact, many women tell themselves, I'm just doing what feels right, or we're adults, it's natural. But beneath that, if we really dig deep, there's often a hidden hope. Maybe if I sleep with him, he'll see me differently. Maybe this will bring us closer. And that's where it gets dangerous, because now you're using sex like a tool to gain closeness rather than an expression of genuine connection. Sex is not a currency. It's not something you exchange in hopes of securing love, commitment, or emotional safety. It's not a bargaining chip. But when you're in a place of emotional need or insecurity, it can start to feel like a transaction. You give your body, hoping it will unlock his heart. You get intimate, hoping it will make him choose you. You go all in physically, hoping he'll go all in emotionally. But here's the truth no one likes to say out loud. You can't sleep your way into someone's feelings. If he doesn't already see you as someone he wants to invest in, sex won't magically change that. In fact, if he was already unsure, sleeping with him too soon, especially before trust and clarity are established, can actually blur things even more. Now, this isn't about shame. This isn't about saying there's a right or wrong time. This is about checking in with your intention. Are you doing this because it feels like a mutual expression of something real and meaningful? Or are you hoping that this one act will make him stay? Because here's what happens when you sleep with someone for the wrong reasons. You become emotionally tied to an outcome. If he pulls away afterward, you're not just hurt by the distance, you're devastated. You start asking, was I not good enough? Did I do something wrong? But the real question should be, did I sleep with someone who had already shown me they were emotionally safe, ready, and invested? The most powerful place to come from is when sex is a bonus to a connection that's already being built, not a tool to manufacture one. You deserve to feel chosen before, during, and after intimacy, not just in the heat of the moment. You deserve someone who shows up with consistency, respect, and clarity, not just chemistry. When you value yourself, you stop needing to give your body in hopes of earning someone's attention. You stop trying to prove your worth through physicality. You realize your presence, your energy, your vibe, that's already the most attractive thing about you. Sex isn't something you give to gain love. Love is something you build, and sex should be a part of celebrating that, not chasing it. Here's something that might challenge you, but I say it with love and deep respect for your heart. If sleeping with him would emotionally destroy you the next day if he didn't call, you're not ready. That might sound harsh, But it's actually one of the kindest truths you can hear. Because if the thought of him pulling away after being intimate would leave you spiraling, obsessing, questioning your worth, then you're not entering intimacy from a place of emotional power. You're entering it from a place of emotional risk. And the most vulnerable thing you can do is offer your body while your sense of self is still tied to whether he validates you afterward. Here's the benchmark I want you to use. Do I feel emotionally strong enough to walk away if this goes nowhere after? If the answer is no, pause. Not because you're not allowed to want intimacy, not because you need to follow some strict rule, but because protecting your emotional energy is one of the most important forms of self-love. The truth is, you can't control someone else's follow-through. He might say all the right things in the moment. He might act like he's really into you. But words are easy. Physical connection is easy. What's rare is consistency. What's rare is emotional integrity. And until you've seen how someone shows up outside of the romantic high, the quiet moments, the mundane ones, the ones where it's inconvenient to be there, you're still getting to know who he really is. So many women fall into the trap of giving their heart away too soon because they're clinging to potential. They're caught up in the chemistry, the excitement, the promise of what could be. But here's the truth. Chemistry means nothing if it's not paired with character. And character is only revealed over time. So what's the goal here? It's not to wait forever or to make sex some prize he has to earn. That's not what this is about. It's about being so grounded in your self-worth that sex isn't a gamble, it's a choice. One where you know that if it doesn't work out, you won't be shattered because your value wasn't on the line to begin with. That's where your power lives. The ability to say, I care about you, I'm attracted to you, but I also care about me. And I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'll crumble if you don't show up afterward. When you reach that place, when you know you could walk away and still feel whole, that's when intimacy becomes a beautiful expression of closeness, not a high-stakes emotional test. And that's when you'll attract someone who values you, not just for the moment, but for the long term. Let's be honest, physical attraction can be blinding. That magnetic pull, the butterflies, the way he looks at you like he's undressing your soul. It's exciting, and exciting can feel real. It can feel powerful. But here's the truth. Chemistry is not the same as connection. You might have undeniable physical chemistry with someone, but that doesn't mean you have emotional safety. And if you want to build something that lasts, or even just protect your peace, you have to start recognizing the difference between the two. Physical attraction is easy, it's instant, it's that electric spark that makes your stomach flip when you see him. But emotional safety, that's something deeper. That's built over time. It's not sexy in the beginning, but it's what makes everything else sustainable. So what does emotional safety actually feel like? It feels like consistency. He doesn't just show up when it's convenient. He doesn't disappear for days and then come back with a sweet text and a flirtatious compliment. He's there when it matters, when it's awkward, and when you're not at your best. Feels like clarity. You're not constantly questioning where you stand. You don't feel like you're in a competition for his attention. You're not decoding mixed signals, wondering if he really meant what he said, because he makes it obvious. And most of all, it feels like respect. Respect for your boundaries, your pace, and your emotional needs. He's not pressuring you. He's not rushing you. He's not using intimacy as a tool to close the deal. He's allowing the space for you to choose if and when it's right for you. Now let's contrast that with what happens when you only have physical attraction. That's when you find yourself in situationships where things feel amazing when you're together, but you're anxious, confused, or even insecure the moment you're apart. That's when you're constantly trying to read between the lines, when in reality, the lines should be clear. Without emotional safety, sex becomes risky. Not because you're doing anything wrong, but because your heart is unprotected. And whether you want to admit it or not, sleeping with someone often deepens the emotional bond, especially for women. It activates your attachment. it makes you invest faster. So if the man you're sleeping with isn't emotionally consistent, that closeness can turn into anxiety real fast. You find yourself thinking, he used to text me every morning. Why hasn't he today? Or was it just physical for him? And now you're spiraling because the foundation wasn't there in the first place. The physical intimacy moved faster than the emotional trust. So here's the filter I want you to use. Do I feel emotionally held by this person? Not just when we're cuddled up in bed, but on a random Wednesday when life is messy or I'm in a vulnerable space. Do I feel like he genuinely cares about me, not just about being close to me? If the answer is no, pause, take a breath, because you deserve to feel chosen, seen, and respected, not just desired. Remember, emotional safety creates the environment for real intimacy to grow. Without it, you're building a house on sand. But with it, you can move forward with confidence, knowing that if you choose to be vulnerable, it's with someone who's actually worthy of that privilege. Your body's a gift. Your heart is a gift. And the person who gets close to both should have earned your trust, not just your attention. One of the most important questions you can ask yourself before sleeping with someone is this: what do I actually want from this experience? Not what he wants, not what your friends think, not what society says is normal, not what you feel pressured to do, but you, your heart, your values, your truth. So many women override their own desires because they're too focused on keeping a man interested. They start asking, is this what he expects? Will he lose interest if I wait? What if he thinks I'm not attracted to him? And suddenly, without realizing it, they're not making a choice from confidence. They're making a choice from fear of losing him, fear of being rejected, fear of being too much or too little. And when you're acting from fear, you're not in your power. You're in performance mode. Here's the truth. If you don't know what you want before things get physical, it's far too easy to fall into someone else's plan. You'll start saying yes to things that don't feel aligned. You'll silence your gut when it's trying to speak to you. You'll rationalize behaviors that you'd normally see as red flags just because you want to keep the connection alive. But the real question is it worth keeping if you're losing yourself in the process? It's not about whether he wants to sleep with you. Of course he does. You're amazing. The real question is, do you want what comes after that? Do you want connection, consistency, effort, exclusivity, growth? Do you want to feel emotionally held, not just physically touched? Because here's what happens when you skip over what you want and focus only on what he wants. You disconnect from your standards. You start settling for crumbs, hoping they'll eventually become a full meal. You start thinking, maybe this is just how dating works now. No, that's not dating. That's compromising yourself to fit into someone else's narrative. You deserve to be intentional. You deserve to make choices based on your inner compass, not based on someone else's desire. You deserve to ask, does this feel aligned with the relationship I want to build, before giving yourself physically to someone? And if the answer is no, or if the answer is I'm not sure yet, then give yourself the grace to wait. Not because you're playing games or withholding affection, but because you respect yourself enough to make a choice that's in full alignment with your heart. When you're clear on what you want, something powerful happens. You stop being afraid to disappoint someone. You stop chasing validation. You stop confusing lust with love. You show up as a woman who's not just desirable, but discerning. And that discernment is magnetic. Because a man who's truly ready for a meaningful connection isn't scared by your clarity. In fact, it excites him. It tells him that you're not easily swayed, that you're a woman with standards, with boundaries, with self-respect, and that makes you unforgettable. So the next time you find yourself asking, should I sleep with him? Flip the question, do I want to? Not from a place of pressure or fear, but from a place of truth. Because when you move from that place, you'll never look back and regret choosing you. Here's the hard truth. People can only fake who they are for so long. In the early stages of dating, everyone's putting their best foot forward. He's charming, attentive, curious, and full of potential. You feel the spark. You imagine what it could become. And it's tempting, so tempting, to lean all the way in, to rush the connection, to seal it with physical intimacy. But here's the thing. Time is the one thing that always tells the truth. It's easy for someone to play the part for a few weeks. It's easy to send good morning texts, make romantic gestures, say all the right things. But that's not character. That's performance. Real character reveals itself slowly. It shows up in how he handles disappointment, in how he treats you when he's tired, frustrated, or doesn't get his way, in whether his actions match his words. Not just on the exciting dates, but in the quiet, ordinary in-between moments. And that's why time is so powerful. It protects you from falling in love with an illusion. Too often people rush into sex before they've seen the real person behind the performance. And once that line is crossed, everything gets cloudy. You start justifying behavior that's inconsistent or confusing. You start getting attached to potential rather than patterns. And once your emotions are entangled, it becomes 10 times harder to walk away, even when all the red flags are waving in your face. But if you give it time, if you let space reveal his true nature, you give yourself a gift: clarity. You get to see if he's still consistent once the novelty wears off. You get to watch how he handles conflict. You get to observe whether he respects your pace or just pretends to while subtly pressuring you. And most importantly, you get to see if he shows up for you, not just the version of you he's trying to seduce. When you wait, you take your power back. You're no longer auditioning for someone else's love. You're interviewing him for a role in your life. You're paying attention. You're assessing. You're asking yourself, does this man actually deserve access to the most vulnerable parts of me? And that's not you being cold or calculating. It's you being conscious. There's a massive difference between emotional openness and emotional recklessness. One is rooted in strength, the other in impulse. Think about it this way. Would you hand someone the keys to your house after one date? Probably not. You'd want to know that they're trustworthy, that they care about your safety, that they're not just here for a good time, but that they're willing to show up when it's hard, when it's boring, when it's real. Your body, your heart, your presence, those are your house. And not everyone gets a key just because they made you laugh over dinner and leaned in close at the end of the night. The man who's worth it will show you over time, not with big promises, but with small, consistent actions, not with perfect lines, but with real effort. And when he does, sex becomes a celebration of the connection you've built, not a shortcut to create one. So let time do its job. Let him show you who he really is, and trust yourself enough to wait for the man who shows up not just when it's easy, but especially when it counts. So let's bring it all together. When it comes to the question, when should I sleep with him? There is no perfect timeline, no universal number of dates, and certainly no magic formula. But what you do need is emotional clarity. You need to be anchored in your own worth before you give your body to someone. Because the real answer isn't about time. It's about alignment. Alignment with your values, your feelings, your emotional safety, and your standards. Sleep with him when you know you can walk away if it's not right. When there's emotional safety, not just physical attraction. When you're choosing from your desires, not just reacting to his. And when time has given you the truth, not just the fantasy. You don't owe anyone access to you just because they seem interested. You don't need to fast track intimacy to keep him around. The right man, the one with integrity, depth, and intention, he'll wait. Not because you made him jump through hoops, but because you're worth it. So here's your challenge. Stay in your power. Listen to your gut. Honor your heart. And never, never trade your self-worth for someone else's short-term approval. You are the prize, not the game, not the pursuit, the prize. And when you truly believe that, you'll only share yourself with someone who treats you that way. If this message spoke to you, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below letting me know What's one standard you refuse to compromise on anymore? Let's raise the bar together for ourselves and for love that's actually worth it. You've got this, and I'm right here with you.